We begin with never-before-seen police dash cam video showing murder suspect Karen Reed in the moments after her boyfriend's body was found in the middle of a blizzard back in 2022. In that video, you can hear Reed screaming. Thank you for being with us tonight. I'm Lisa Hughes.
And I'm David Wade. That video capped off the first day of testimony in this high-profile murder trial. WBZ's Christina Rex was inside the courtroom for day one. And Christina, very busy first day.
Yeah, Lisa and David, that video was the absolute last thing that jurors got to see in this busy first day of this trial. We had opening statements from both prosecution and defense, and then 3 witnesses took the stand today. Here's some of what we learned.
All right, good morning.
Karen Reed's trial begins with opening statements. The prosecution,
the relationship's out,
painting the picture of a relationship in decline, ended in the moment Karen allegedly struck John O'Keefe with her car and left him to die in the cold. Attorney Adam Lally explaining through a list of dozens of witnesses expected to appear at trial.
All of this is in relation to Brian Albert and Nicole Albert's son, Brian Albert Jr.
Next, the defense gave its version of a deliberately botched investigation.
By a minimum of 4 officers looking for evidence was 0.
An impassioned delivery insinuating that someone other than Karen killed John. And
Karen Reed was framed for a murder she did not commit.
Well, this was jaw-dropping testimony in the Karen Reed murder trial. The lead investigator read personal text message that he sent to friends, calling Reed a whack job and far worse. WBZ's Christina Rex was in the courtroom for all the testimony.
Zero. Absolutely zero impact on this investigation.
that is what State Trooper Michael Proctor tried to convince the jury about his relationship with some witnesses in this case and about the unflattering personal text messages of his he sent about Karen Reed as he investigated her for murder.
She's a whack job. See.
Objection. So don't spell it. You have to. So these are your words, Trooper Proctor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and say them.
Yes, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. Said the Alberts beat the out of O'Keefe, left him for dead, and that's why her taillight was cracked. She's gross. Trooper DeChico. Oh, her.
Hear them read in open court. I know you've heard them before, but can you just tell us what that felt like?
I've done nothing wrong. He has. You might want to ask him how he feels hearing that read in open court. I'm not ashamed or embarrassed.
Doctor is embarrassed, as he told the jury several times.
The rest of the unprofessional and regrettable comments are something I'm not proud of, and I shouldn't have wrote in a private or any type of setting.
And a reminder, there are 10 women on this 17-person jury, and at times you did see a reaction from some of them today, which is unusual in this case. Jurors got a look at the body language between Karen Reed and John O'Keefe just hours before his death in 2022. This shot from inside CF McCarthy's in Canton when Karen arrived while John drank beers with buddies. Friends there testified to their demeanor.
Before Mr. O'Keefe's passing, would you describe their interactions to be normal and caring and affectionate?
Yes.
Then surveillance inside the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton, where the couple met up with more friends.
I noticed the opposite.
Describe that.
They were affectionate toward each other, loving toward each other, and to the point where my wife even made a comment, why are you not like that with me?
Inside the Waterfall with them, fellow Boston police officer Brian Albert, who owns 34 Fairview Road, the Canton home where the group ended up going after, and where O'Keefe was later found dead outside. Defense attorneys showed more surveillance in their cross-examination, like this shot of Brian Albert and ATF agent Brian Higgins seemingly play fighting in the bar before the after-party. Remember, the defense claims O'Keefe died in a fight rather than being hit by Karen's car. The bartender who served the group also testified.
Nobody really seemed highly intoxicated to you, correct?
No.
The defense thinks that tussle video paints a different picture of the night.
I mean, it speaks for itself. These two guys
roughhousing,
grappling, sparring, looking like they're fighting, practicing fighting techniques.
at 6, in Karen Reed's trial, the witness who says she saw a black blob in the same spot where John O'Keefe's body was found. That witness testified that she saw the object as she was leaving the house party that night. Thanks for being with us. I'm Lisa Hughes.
I'm Paula Eben. David is off. Now, that testimony would appear to help the prosecution, but new at 6, the defense tells WBZ's Christina Rex they've already won the case.
Something out of the ordinary, like a black blob in the grounds by the flagpole.
And there it is, the first witness to place what could be John O'Keefe's body on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road shortly before 2 a.m. on January 29th, 2022.
5 or 6 feet, like long.
Julie Nagel is among the group of Brian Albert Jr.'s friends who were over the house for his birthday that night. She, friend Sarah, Brian's sister Caitlin Albert, and her boyfriend Tristan Morris all testified Tuesday. Nagel says she was getting a ride home from Jen McCabe that night when she alerted her friend to something on the lawn in this spot she indicated.
I was like, I think I might have saw something.
But she was drunk, she says, and the defense pointed out this observation was first noted in October of 2022 to Trooper Michael Proctor, months after Karen Reed was indicted for murder.
You've never mentioned that this black object was 5 or 6 feet long until the last hour or so when Mr. Lally questioned you about it, correct?
Yes.
This revelation came after a half day of testimony from others about who saw whom, where, and when, and what many didn't see.
Against that white snow, did you see a black baseball cap?
I did not.
Absolutely not.
No.
Did you see a 6'2", 220-pound man sprawled out right in front of you on that lawn?
I did not.
No, I did not.
No.
Following this testimony, defense attorneys seem to believe their case was already won.
I mean, their case is falling down around their feet. Every day, it just seems to crumble that much more.
To Karen Reed's trial now, and a pivotal afternoon of testimony. WBZ's Christina Rex was in court as a key witness took the stand.
She grabbed my hands and she said, Google hypothermia, Google how long it takes to die in the cold.
The Google search at the center of the defense's case, Jen McCabe says she made after 6 a.m. because Karen Reed told her to. The woman who discovered John O'Keefe's body with Karen told her version of the story Friday, starting with the early morning phone call from Karen.
And she tells me that John didn't come home, they got into a fight, and that she left him at the waterfall.
But that didn't make sense, Jen said. She had seen Karen and John's car outside the 34 Fairview after party. Then on the phone,
she was saying, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? And then she proceeded to say that she had a cracked taillight.
So they went out to search. On the drive, Jen told jurors Karen was hysterical, talking about other women John O'Keefe had dated years prior. As they pulled near the house, Karen screamed, "There he is," and bolted out the car. The three women then discovered O'Keefe's lifeless body on the lawn, covered in snow.
I saw Carrie wiping the snow off of John's face, and I could not believe that that was John laying there.
Still hysterical, the women tried to warm John, performed CPR, and called 911. Once paramedics arrived, Jen McCabe told jurors Karen's words were clear.
3 times, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
But Karen's attorney says Jen will have a lot to answer for when it's his turn to ask questions, including what time that Google search really happened.
There are more holes in her story than a fishing net.
In Reed trial, Jen McCabe was back on the stand. She was with Reed the morning John O'Keefe was found dead. And new at 6, the defense peppered McCabe with questions about calls to O'Keefe that were deleted from her phone. As WBZ's Christina Rex shows us, the questioning was tense from the start.
You're spinning all of this.
Ma'am, I do a lot of things.
Yeah.
I don't spin. There's a judge here to make sure that I don't spin. I'm asking you a question. It's very direct.
That tense and at times hostile back and forth defined the 4 hours of Jen McCabe's cross-examination Tuesday. McCabe was with Karen Reed when they found John O'Keefe's body. She testified that she heard Karen say she hit him. Testimony the defense says has changed over the years. Instead, lawyer Alan Jackson painted Jen as the orchestrator of the narrative told by her family and friends.
Have you spoken to them about these events between then and now?
About this case? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, Ms. McCabe, I'm asking about this case.
Of course, I speak to them all the time about the vicious harassment we are all receiving.
Karen Reed's team accused McCabe of an off-the-books meeting with a Canton cop in the days after John's death. And the jury heard for the first time allegations that Jen deleted at least 6 calls she made to John O'Keefe between 12:29 and 12:50 that night.
I believe I used the word butt dials.
You claimed that every one of these calls was a butt dial. Is that right?
Yes.
Defense lawyers believe those deleted calls could provide reasonable doubt for the jury.
Butt dialing is becoming a thing with the Albert clan. Like, how bizarre is that?
And so you say John was in the house, his phone's missing, she's calling him to find his phone.
That's certainly a reasonable interpretation.
Jennifer McCabe was back on the stand this morning for tense questioning about Google searches that she made and what time she made them on the day Boston police officer John O'Keefe's body was found in the snow. This morning, Karen Reed's lawyers questioned McCabe about the now infamous misspelled Google search she made, "Hus long to die in cold." She says Reed told her to make those Google searches.
She was screaming, "Google hypothermia, how long does it take to die in the cold?" And I picked up my phone and I started Googling.
In court today, the defense pointed to cell phone data showing the first time McCabe made that search was at 2:27 in the morning, hours before John O'Keefe's body was discovered. Defense attorney Alan Jackson says the timing of the search exonerates Karen Reed and implicates McCabe in O'Keefe's death.
Ms. McCabe, you made that search at 2:27 a.m. because you knew that John O'Keefe was outside in your sister's lawn dying in the cold, didn't you?
Absolutely not. I did not make that search at that time. No.
Did you delete that search because you knew that you would be implicated in John O'Keefe's death if that search was found on your phone?
I did not delete that search. I never made that search at 2:23. I never would have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he was my friend that I loved.
In court filings, the prosecution has said the defense is misinterpreting that cell phone data. Reed's lawyers are trying to convince the jury that McCabe is part of a scheme to frame Reed for O'Keefe's death. Reed is accused of hitting O'Keefe, her boyfriend, with her SUV and leaving him to die in the snow in January 2022.
I responded, "I don't know, you're just my type." I responded, "You think you can handle me?"
Revealing text messages in the Karen Reed murder trial. The texts between Reed and an ATF agent who was also a friend of John O'Keefe's. The messages were traded in the weeks before O'Keefe's death.
And as WBZ's Christina Rex shows us this evening, some of the messages suggested that Reed and O'Keefe's relationship was in trouble.
Defendant responded, "You're hot."
That text from Karen Reed began a couple of weeks of flirtation in January 2022. And for 1 hour Friday, jurors listened to dozens of the messages.
You know, I'm not proud of these text messages.
Brian Higgins, an ATF agent who worked out of Canton PD, recounting a texting relationship with Karen in the weeks leading up to John O'Keefe's death and their one physical romantic interaction.
The defendant kissed me.
And how did she kiss you?
Not like a friend.
Lip to lip, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Like a romantic kiss?
That's the way I interpreted it.
Then the text continued, Karen confiding that her relationship with John was deteriorating, that she claimed to have seen John kiss another woman on their New Year's vacation, and that she struggled helping raise his kids.
Because I went from being solo to trying to give attention to kids who aren't mine, and I never wanted kids.
The two went through a lull for about a week. Then Higgins fired off a text at the waterfall that night and received this text back from Karen shortly before noon on January 29th.
John died.
Then fireworks at the end of the day as defense attorneys accused him of destroying his phone.
You've destroyed that phone, haven't you?
No, I threw the phone away.
Well, that's destroying the phone, isn't it?
What, if anything else, has your family or Colin Albert and his family undergone over the course of the pendency of this case?
Objection.
No, the door's been opened. I'm allowing it.
Well, basically harassment.
And harassment by who?
Bloggers, people online.
And what, if anything, in relation to Colin Albert being in the house has occurred as far as the harassment that you're talking about?
Can you rephrase?
With reference to what you were talking about as far as the relevancy of Colin Albert being in the house at that time, what, if any, harassment was there in relation to that and in relation to Colin?
Well,
No, go ahead. She can answer.
Colin wasn't at the house, so he's being harassed for. He was not at the house when John was there, so I drove him home. So the people are harassing him, saying he was at the house when it's not true.
When you speak about harassment, what specifically type of harassment are we talking about?
Constant phone calls, emails, awful messages.
Objection.
I'll allow it. Focus on this witness, not Colin Albert at this point.
As far as you and your family, what, if any, type of harassment have you received?
People showing up at our house, people emailing my school, just like a lot of harassment. Can I have a moment, please?
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have some, thank you.
And how long a period of time has that persisted for?
Very long time.
Thank you. I have no further.
I have nothing further.
I will beat your I promise you, I will you all up.
These videos taken by Colin Albert in high school played before the jury as the defense worked to paint him as a kid with a propensity for fighting.
That was a threat, wasn't it?
Yes.
But Colin claims he's never been in a fight, not with anyone but his brothers.
Did you ever threaten John O'Keefe?
Never.
John O'Keefe ever threaten you?
Never.
Before the videos, defense showed the jury this picture, taken 28 days after John O'Keefe's death. See Colin's knuckles?
And I was walking up the driveway and I slipped down the driveway and I tried to catch myself, but I had something in my left hand, so I had tried to brace myself with my right hand and I ended up sliding a little bit down the driveway.
But defense attorneys say the then teenager showed up to a hearing one other time with hurt knuckles too, which he attributed to hitting the bag at the gym.
And with the court's permission, if I could play that for the jury.
Yes.
You could hear it there. Voicemail messages left by Karen Reed in the hours before John O'Keefe was found in a snowbank. The prosecution trying to show the jury a tense relationship with her police officer boyfriend.
WBZ's Christina Rex spent the day in court and joins us now. Christina.
Courtney and David, those voicemails were played as some of the final witnesses in the state's case took the stand.
John, I hate you! These voicemails left between 12:37 and 1:30 a.m. on January 29th, after the state alleges Karen Reed had already hit John O'Keefe with her car, leaving him to die.
Yeah, it's 1 in the morning. I'm with your niece and nephew. You pervert. You're a pervert. You are using me right now. You're another girl. Loser.
Investigators say Reed called O'Keefe 53 times that night. The jury heard these voicemails on one of the last days of the state's case against Reed.
Is Karen Reed a killer or the victim of a police cover-up? After an 8-week tsunami of testimony, a jury is now deliberating that question. But we already know tonight it's not a quick and easy answer, because on the first afternoon of deliberations, they did not come back with a verdict. And the crowd of Free Karen Read supporters outside of the courthouse is only growing. Some people traveling hours and hours to be there as the woman on trial for murder braces herself for the decision. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm David Wade. Both the defense and the prosecution say they want justice for the victim in this case, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. But they have two very different theories on how he died. And the final decision is now in the hands of the jury. WBZ has been following this case very closely from the very beginning, and we have team coverage tonight while we're on verdict watch. We begin with Tammy Mutasa and today's closing arguments.
Tonight, there is a lot of anticipation for a verdict, especially as the jury comes back to deliberate for a second day. And Read supporters tell me they will be here every single day until a verdict is reached. A swarm of supporters surrounding Karen Read as she walked out of the Norfolk County Superior Court. Her murder case now in the hands of the jury for one day. The phones were out, capturing every step of the defendant. As she awaits the verdict, her feelings?
I don't know if nerves are the right word. Anticipation.
Look the other way.
I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
First, the jury listened to closing arguments as both sides outlined their version of what happened the night Boston police officer John O'Keefe died.
What evidence do they actually have to prove that that SUV ever hit John? The answer is none. They don't have any. There's no evidence whatsoever.
Read's defense attorneys painted the picture of a cover-up case where O'Keefe's death was pinned on Read through planted evidence after a fight at the powerful Albert family's home.
How long does it take to have a crossword? How long does it take to have a fight? How long would it take for Brian Higgins to say to John, you know, your girl's been texting me?
But the prosecution emphasizing that physical and DNA evidence shows Read hit O'Keefe with her SUV after a night of drinking.
No calls to 911 from the defendant, while John O'Keefe is laying, freezing, and dying.
Prosecutors highlighted a motive, the fight between Read and O'Keefe that day. They played Read's angry voicemails from that night, then apologized for Trooper Michael Proctor's insulting texts during the investigation.
Two things can be true at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. The texts from Trooper Proctor are distasteful, they're disrespectful, they're unprofessional. There's no defense to them. And the defendant killed John O'Keefe.
As the jury decides who they believe, Read supporters wait for the verdict, however long it takes.
We're just anxiously awaiting the jury to come back and proclaim her innocence.
Deliberations start first thing tomorrow morning. In Dedham, Tammy Mutasa, WBZ.
News.
The judge declares a mistrial in Karen Read's murder trial. A jury of 6 women and 6 men say they were deeply divided and simply could not agree on a verdict. Thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Lisa Hughes.
And I'm David Wade. The other big headline here is that the DA's office says it will retry this case. The jurors spent 27 hours over 5 days considering the charges. The most serious, of course, second-degree murder. There was also a manslaughter while operating under the influence, and for that count, jurors could have picked 2 less serious charges, involuntary manslaughter or motor vehicle homicide. And the third count was leaving the scene of bodily injury or death. But again, they could not come to a unanimous decision. We have team coverage tonight. We begin with WBZ's Christina Rex, who was in the courtroom for today's decision. Christina?
Yeah, David, so many weeks of this trial. That's part of what made it such an exceptional case. A nearly 10-week trial, 74 witnesses, over 600 pieces of evidence, all to end with no real closure for any participant in this case here. And you could really feel that heaviness in the room as the judge declared that mistrial.
Your service is complete. I'm declaring a mistrial in this case.
That statement from the judge bringing strong emotion from the mother of John O'Keefe. The O'Keefe family, as well as the Reads, will have to sit through another trial after the 12-person jury of 6 men and 6 women was unable to reach a unanimous decision in this one.
The deep division is not due to a lack of effort or diligence, but rather a sincere adherence to our individual principles and moral convictions. To continue to deliberate would be futile and only serve to force us to compromise these deeply held beliefs.
The Norfolk County District Attorney's Office releasing this statement immediately after, saying, "We thank the O'Keefe family for their commitment and dedication to this long process. They maintained sight of the true core of this case to find justice for John O'Keefe," saying the Commonwealth intends to retry this case.
The Commonwealth did their worst. Guess what? They failed. They failed miserably, and they'll continue to fail.
10 weeks and 74 witnesses and no closure for those involved. Karen Reed and her lawyers hugged her family before they exited court, just briefly addressing reporters outside.
I want to send a message to all of her supporters out there. Your support was invaluable. Touched, and we ask for your continued support. I'm not from Texas, like my colleague here. I'm a Boston kid, but I'll repeat what he said, which is, we ain't got no quit.
And I do want to point out, Karen Reed did not say anything to reporters outside the courthouse after that mistrial was declared. She has been pretty vocal with reporters. I've spoken to her many times outside of court until the last few days, when she's really started to shy away from the cameras. The O'Keefe family also left the court silently, not saying anything to any reporters outside of the courthouse. Now, here we are back to square one, July 22nd. There will be a status hearing back at this courthouse for this case all over again. Live in Dedham, Christina Rex, WBZ News.
All right, Christina, thank you.